from Stuart Robert. Now, this got a lot of headlines earlier in the week. We know that MyGov was down, people were unable to access the website. He came out at a news conference and quite clearly said there'd been a denial of service attack and then backtracked in Parliament and said, in fact, the alarms had gone off signifying some sort of attack, but that wasn't the case. To put it bluntly, should we believe him?
Look, it's been a disaster, Tom, and it actually wasn't what we consider to be a denial of service attack in its truest sense, and that is when we're used to seeing a bunch of cyber criminals take down a website. Essentially what it was a denial of service just because there were so many users that were trying to access the website to get access to benefits. So when you have hundreds of thousands of people all using multiple devices, you know, a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, a mobile device, that amplifies all those people just hitting that website, and it's something they should have foreseen and something they should have addressed.
So when he came out in that news conference and said it had been a denial of service attack rather than just being overloaded, and when he later on said, well, there was an alarm that tripped that sort of indication, that's what we thought was happening, is that believable, or is the initial alert just there are too many users, then you have to figure out why? His reasoning and his explanation, does that to you ring true?
It half rings true. So, yes, it should have triggered an alarm because there was lots and lots of users, just like if there was a malicious attack where there'd been orchestrated by criminals using lots and lots of machines to do the same thing. And it's similar to if you wind the clock back to census, when they took the census offline because they thought it was a denial of service attack, when in reality it was just lots of users on multiple devices having a crack at it. So it would have, you know, he was a bit cute with his, there's been a denial of service attack. There was certainly no attack when he came out, and, you know, he should have got the facts right beforehand and said, you know, the system cannot cope with all these people trying to get access.
And the government's defence on this was they'd increased demand tenfold. So from the Friday before all these waves of people out of work started, you could have, I think, 6,000 or so people on the site at one time. They increased it to 55,000. Should they have known it was a lot higher than that?
You know, considering the amount of, just look at hospitality, for example, and allied workers that lost their job and all seeking benefits. They know the metrics. They know the amount of people that work in each industry. They should have amplified this to be 500,000 users can get it. And there's a person in my family that started on Monday and didn't finish the application process till Friday because the website kept crashing.
Yeah, all right. Sounds like you're not giving him a pass mark, and I think you'll be along with a few other Australians as well. We talk a lot about civil liberties normally, Nigel. We've got mobile phone companies talking about tracking to try to stop the spread of coronavirus. We think that would be a good thing. What's the downside here?
Oh, the downside is obviously privacy, firstly, and secondly, where does this get used as an extension once we get over this issue? So, you know, places like China have, you know, and China can do this, can force their population to download an app where they can track them, and they can use Bluetooth and other parts of that to say, if you're on a bus or on a plane and there was someone in the row in front of you or the row behind you that had coronavirus, we can work out who the other users were on that piece of public transport, and we can contact them and tell them to go into self-isolation. So holistically, we think that's not a bad thing. Singapore have done a similar thing. Again, they can opt people in. Australia, well, traditionally we can track people through a range of different ways. We can triangulate. You know, often when we see a bushwalkers that get lost, they ping their phone through triangulation through cell sites, and they try and work out roughly where they are in the bush. But of course, we have so much information and so much geolocation on our mobile phones that whereas a law enforcement agency would traditionally go to a court and get a warrant to get access, you might have your ride-sharing apps, for example, which might voluntarily give up data about where users are and who they're with.
Well, yeah, I know there's normally a reluctance on civil liberties, but tell you what, with the number of people just ignoring the orders, you'd have to question somewhat whether or not right now is the time to worry too much about it. Just finally and briefly, China is out there with disinformation. Just about all the epidemiologists agree this started in Wuhan. It's believed to have come, of course, from the fact that China allows citizens to eat wild animals, so via a bat is the likelihood. But there's this disinformation campaign, and China enlisting basically its netizens to get out there and spread conspiracy theories about where it all came from.
Absolutely, and it's something that we're used to seeing really from Russia, whereas they use dubious websites that appear to look legitimate and often hosted in Western jurisdictions, and the funding of those sites is, queried. And it's not just to put out one lot of conspiracy theories, it's really to muddy the waters and get that sharing through social media. So we're seeing sites where it's saying it was a bacteria originated from the US. We're seeing sites where they're saying it comes from Italy, all sorts of things to try and cloud and muddy the waters.
Yeah, forget about those explanations, and certainly there was an earlier announcement from Xi Jinping of no longer allowing these wild animal markets to happen. You would certainly hope so, given what's just happened now. Nigel Phair, always appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.